All right, so let's start this broadcast with some breaking inputs that have come in, where protesters in Nepal have taken to the streets again despite the government revoking a ban on social media. Now, clashes between the protesters and the police on Monday had led to the death of at least about 19 and 400 others had been injured. Now, the Kathmandu District Administration Office has imposed an indefinite curfew inside of the Ring Road area of the Nepalese capital, reintroducing restriction just hours after an earlier order was lifted. The protesters are blocking the road outside of the Nepalese Parliament. They're also targeting the residences of ministers in Kathmandu, hurling stones and also setting properties on fire, including that of the Minister of Communication and Information Technology, Prithvi Subba Gurung. Now, the protesters have warned that they will not stop until KP Sharma Oli, the Prime Minister, resigns. Meanwhile, Nepal's Agriculture Minister Ramnath Adhikari and also the Health Minister Pradeep Paudel, both aligned with the Nepalese Congress, have resigned from their posts, condemning the government's crackdown. Their resignation follows of the Home Minister Ramesh Lekhak, who had stepped down, taking moral responsibility for the government's handling of the protests. India, meanwhile, has raised concerns about the protest. In a statement, New Delhi has said that it is closely monitoring the developments since yesterday and is deeply saddened by the loss of many young lives. Now, taking note that the authorities have imposed curfew in Kathmandu and several other cities in Nepal, it has advised the Indian nationals there to exercise caution and to adhere to the steps and guidance issued by the Nepalese authorities. A decision to lift the ban on social media sites was made after an emergency cabinet meeting late on Monday. The ban was put in place last week on sites which did not comply with a deadline to register with Nepal's Ministry of Communications and Information Technology. The KP Sharma Oli made the announcement, blaming infiltration by various vested interest groups for Monday's violence. An investigation committee has now been formed to look into this violence. It's been given 15 days' time to prepare a report looking into the aspects of how the situation had escalated and also the possible factors behind it. Meanwhile, UNICEF has said that it is deeply alarmed by reports of violence against children. Now, the United Nations resident coordinator for the country has described the situation so unlike Nepal and fears that casualty numbers could in fact rise. The European Union, in a statement, has expressed some deep regrets over the death and violence of the ongoing demonstrations. Now, amongst the personalities who reacted includes actress Manisha Koirala. She called Monday to be a black day for Nepal, condemning the bullet response to the quote-unquote voice of the people and outrage against corruption and a demand for justice. And our correspondent Saloni Murarka has been tracking the story very closely for us and has sent us this report from Kathmandu. Take a look.
Protesters are surrounding the parliament area. They burned the tires. They burned the tires here right in front of the parliament building. And now stone pelting has just begun from both the sides. Police officials are guarding the premises of the parliament. They demand the resignation of the Prime Minister Oli's government, and they say that the rising corruption and widening inequality has tortured the civilians of the country, and that's why all the people and the young people, they leave the nation. As you can see, the stone pelting has begun. Both sides. Protesters have surrounded the parliament area. These kind of protests are taking place across the Kathmandu in different parts of the city, and also in front of the Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's party office, CPN-UML, as I'm hearing from the ground. And this is happening right in front of the parliament building of the Nepal. This is the Federal Parliament of Nepal, and this is the protest happening here. It has been escalated since morning now, and additional authorities are being deployed around the premises.
All right, now joining us on the broadcast over the phone line is our correspondent Saloni Murarka, who's been tracking the developments very closely. Saloni, give us an update as to what is happening at this moment, because there are reports that are coming in which indicate that possibly the Nepalese Prime Minister and the President's house may also have been vandalized and perhaps set on fire. Are these reports credible? What is happening at this moment?
Oh, yes, very much. Since many protesters attacked party offices, buildings of the leaders and of the political parties. And Prime Minister's residence has also been on fire. Prime Minister Oli.
Right, there seems to be an issue. Saloni, do continue to stay on with us. We'll try and reconnect with you. But this of course, is a big development that you're telling us that has unfolded this moment. I request my producers to reconnect with my colleague Saloni Murarka, who is joining us from Kathmandu. These are very important updates that are coming in with respect to what is happening at this moment in Kathmandu. So these are some very dramatic images that are coming in from Kathmandu in Nepal, where my colleague Saloni Murarka is present on the ground in Kathmandu, and she's just confirmed to us the reports that the Prime Minister's house may have been vandalized. There are reports of stone pelting, vandalism and arson that have been reported on the streets of Kathmandu. This is what the scene looks like at this moment, and we'll connect with my colleague Saloni Murarka in just a bit. But these are massive protests that have rocked Nepal, that has pushed the KP Sharma Oli government to the edge. As the Gen Z, these are, remember, very young protesters who are out on the streets in the tiny Himalayan nation. This, of course, has escalated after KP Sharma Oli revoked a ban on social media, which, remember, had been a key trigger for the nationwide protest to address the demands of the youngsters in Nepal. And these are some pretty fast-paced developments that are unfolding at this moment. Very dramatic scenes of stone pelting, of arson, and there are reports that KP Sharma Oli, the Prime Minister's residence, has also been vandalized and set on fire. We'll get my colleague Saloni Murarka in just a bit, but these are some pretty dramatic scenes that are unfolding at this moment, and my colleague Saloni Murarka is back with us over the phone line. Saloni, you were telling us about the developments that had been unfolding at the Prime Minister's official residence. What is the update on that front?
Yes, it is his private residence, and many of the leaders' houses have been set on fire here in Kathmandu. The tension remains really high at the moment in the capital. It is very different from the yesterday's protest, as it was just located in one area, but today the entire city has been facing these disturbances and unrest. There have been disruption around the airport. International flights have been asked to halt. And I'm standing at the airport at the moment because the Kathmandu's international airport is on high alert. As I see around is the large numbers of army deployed, armed police force, additional police, Nepal police. and it has created a chaos for the passengers as well. And it is many of the protesters here, they believe that the country's system needs change because of the rising corruption and the inequality. They believe that the country can do much better with much better leadership, and these young people are on ground today to fight for their friends, to fight for the justice, to fight for their friends who have lost their lives in the last evening's protest. And but so far we have not heard any comment from the government side. But the tensions are really high in Kathmandu and also in different parts of the country as well.
Right. Now, we're given to understand that there are several ministers in KP Sharma Oli's cabinet who have stepped down. Have you heard anything from the Prime Minister about the fate of his government? Because the Home Minister of Nepal stepped down, citing moral responsibility for what has happened.
Right. It is in the last evening when they had a meeting, the key coalition partner of KP Sharma Oli is the Nepali Congress. And Nepali Congress, they condemned the attack. They condemned the control and the pressure that the police officials had put on the protesters yesterday. And many of the Nepali Congress ministers are stepping down, condemning the government's role in it. And as we hear day by day, many of the sources at the party office have said that many more ministers will resign. The remaining will be the only party leaders. And there are high chances that this government might not continue. The government is at stake at the moment. The protest has just again begun. I'm outside the airport at the moment.
Right. Saloni, you're saying that you're at the airport. Do look after yourself. Be in a place where it is okay for you to speak. At this moment, you've told us that the Prime Minister's private residence is what was attacked and set on fire. Do we at this moment know as to where KP Sharma Oli, the Prime Minister of Nepal, is at this moment?
It is many officials here at the security forces have said that Prime Minister Oli is seeking some medical treatment. So we are not really sure if he'll continue the treatment here or outside somewhere. But we are closely following this, and hence all the protesters have gathered here at the airport is because they assume that the prime ministers or the leaders will exit the country. And so just to control that, additional forces have also been deployed on the ground. But the tension are rising. As I speak to you, the numbers of the protesters are also rising.
And what is the scene at the airport where you are? Do we know as to where the protests are at this moment focused on? Is it towards the political establishments, the symbols of the state, or are they also trying to track down where the leaders are headed?
That is exactly the point. They believe that the leaders will be leaving the country because their residences have been attacked, and that is why the additional forces have also been on ground. They want the current government to completely step down and a new system to be established in the country. And they believe even if the ministers have resigned, that's not enough, and thorough investigation is required, and their role in the government is no more needed.
And also, Saloni, at this moment, because this is a youth-driven protest, are there any prominent leaders of these youth who are out on the streets? Is there a certain level of political backing to these protests that are unfolding? Who's leading this protest?
Yes, it is. Just a moment. Yes. So many of the opposition parties have come out in support of the Gen Z's protest, and including the former Prime Minister's Pushpa Kamal Dahal's party, Maoist Center. And they even held a meeting earlier in the day to come out with a coordinated response to the situation. And the mayor of Kathmandu, who has a massive following across Nepal, has also come out in support. The Rashtriya Swatantra Party leader, Ravi Lamechhane, who is behind bars at the moment, has also extended his party's support. So these protests are gaining momentum, and they are getting the attention and the support from the opposition. But many of the Congress leaders, what is surprising is that the ruling coalition party, key coalition partner, that is the Nepali Congress, many of the leaders have also come out in support, Nepali Congress leaders, and have condemned the government's attack. Yeah.
All right, so some very dramatic scenes. Do continue to stay on with us, Saloni Murarka. This is what is unfolding at this moment in Nepal at the moment. As my colleague there was pointing out, that the Prime Minister's private residence has been attacked and set on fire. The residences of several of the other ministers have also been set on fire. My colleague Saloni at this moment is at the airport in Kathmandu, because there is apparently an expectation by the protesters that the leaders may try and leave the country. That is the fear, which is why many of these protesters have now gathered at the airport to prevent that from happening. But these are some very dramatic scenes that are unfolding at this moment in Kathmandu in Nepal, where the protesters have vandalized and set on fire several homes of some of the top cabinet ministers in Nepal, including that of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, where his private residence has, of course, been set on fire. This is what is unfolding at this moment. And my colleague Saloni Murarka is tracking all the developments at this moment from Kathmandu. Saloni, give us a sense of the demands that the protesters have, because this entire protest erupted because of the fact that the government had blocked many of these social media sites. The government has now revoked the ban. Is that not something that satisfies the protesters? Why are the protesters so unhappy? Is it only because of the social media ban that had been imposed, or are there other factors that are also at play here?
There are major other factors that are playing the role. Primarily, these protests started off, and it gained momentum on internet as well, for the rising corruption. That was the main case. But what happened was the ban on the social media. It just ignited that fear. It just ignited that anger and the frustration that people had here, especially the young people. Here at the moment, still they are protesting against the rising corruption. Their main focus is the corruption. However, of course, like you mentioned, the social media ban has been lifted. But they say that this is not our primary demand. Our demand is to put an end to the corruption, right? And put an end to this government. Yeah. And they say that they will continue to protest until the government steps down.
All right. Do continue to stay on with us, Saloni. These are the scenes that are unfolding at this moment in Kathmandu, where the youngsters especially have taken to the streets. This, remember, is a protest by the young who are extremely unhappy about the state of affairs in Nepal. Corruption is such a key driving factor of what has brought many of these youngsters out onto the streets. The fact that KP Sharma Oli decided to ban many of these social media sites, he, of course, later revoked the ban, but that has not satisfied many of these youngsters who are out in the streets, who are demanding that nothing less than a change of government is what will now satisfy them. So some pretty turbulent times at this moment, some pretty turbulent scenes unfolding in Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal. The private residence of KP Sharma Oli has been set on fire, and the Home Minister of Nepal has stepped down, citing moral responsibility. It remains to be seen as to how things, of course, will proceed from here. But these are some very dramatic scenes of what is unfolding at this moment, where the Nepalese politics, it appears, is at an inflection point. KP Sharma Oli, we do not know about his whereabouts. His private residence has been set on fire, and a lot of the protesters have gathered at the airport because they expect that the Prime Minister could try and flee from the country as well. All right, so joining us on the broadcast or the phone line, we've got Mr. Jagdishore Pandey, who's an editor of The Diplomat in Nepal. Mr. Pandey, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. Now, these are some pretty dramatic developments, fast-paced developments that are unfolding at this moment. Do we at this moment know as to what's happened with the Nepalese Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli? Because there are reports which say that his private residence has been set on fire. Right, there seems to be a bit of an issue in the phone line there. We'll reconnect with Mr. Jagdishore Pandey, who is, of course, an editor of The Diplomat in Nepal. These are some images that have unfolded since this morning. Some very dramatic scenes where the youth of Nepal are out on the streets. They're demanding for change, and they say nothing less than a change of the political dispensation will now satisfy their demands. That's the line that they have now drawn. They're no longer satisfied with the fact that the ban on social media websites has now been revoked, And I'm told that we have Mr. Jagdishore Pandey, the editor of The Diplomat in Nepal. Mr. Pandey, am I audible to you, sir? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir, yes.
Right. Mr. Pandey, we are witnessing some very dramatic scenes at this moment in Nepal. Reports say that the private residence of KP Sharma Oli has been set on fire. What are you picking up at your end? Do we know where the Prime Minister of Nepal is?
Okay.
Mr. Pandey, am I audible to you, sir? Were you able to listen to my question? Right, we'll try to reconnect with Mr. Jagdishore Pandey, who is joining us from Nepal, we are told. But these are some very dramatic scenes that are unfolding at this moment in Nepal, where Nepal is convulsed in this political upheaval that many are now pointing out was brought about because of the rampant corruption which the youth of Nepal felt was in many ways not giving them the life that they wanted. Corruption was one of the key underlying factors that is at play here. And what has broken the camel's back was, of course, this ban that was imposed on the social media sites, where the Nepalese government said that there were certain criteria that they wanted these social media giants to, in fact, adhere to. Some of them did, some of them did not. And that brought the youth of the Nepal out onto the streets. And this is what is happening at this moment in Nepal. Some very dramatic scenes and some very fast-paced developments. We do not know at this moment as to where KP Sharma Oli is, because remember, many of these protesters have now gathered at the airport with the expectation that some of the leaders who are very unpopular with the youth of Nepal may try and flee from the country. This is what is happening at this moment here. And it remains to be seen as to what KP Sharma Oli, of course, does from here. Because remember, he was leading a coalition government, and it is unclear whether he even has the popular support of the members of the parliament, because his government could potentially fall if the parties that were part of his coalition do not support him anymore. Because remember, the Home Minister has already quit, citing moral responsibility for what has happened at this moment in Nepal. So the protesters have reportedly set on fire the home of President Ramchandra Paudel as well. There are videos of the incident that have now started doing the rounds. This of course, is another big development where, besides the private residence of the Prime Minister's house having been set on fire, his private residence having been set on fire, there are reports of the President's home, Ramcharan Paudel's home, also being set on fire. The Prime Minister at this moment is under huge pressure to resign, with more and more ministers resigning and distancing themselves from the government. A curfew has been imposed in several parts of the country, including in capital Kathmandu, and the demonstrators have been throwing stones and been marching in the streets for a second consecutive day of these pretty dramatic protests that have engulfed Kathmandu. Now, the police, remember, is out on the streets, but this is where it is interesting. But they are appearing not to resort to use of force to disperse the protesters. This is what the reports are saying, that the police in Kathmandu has not resorted to the use of force in order to crush these protests. The anger of the demonstrators has turned towards the government that has been led by Oli, who has become increasingly unpopular. Right, and my colleague Saloni Murarka, remember, is of course tracking all the developments from the ground for us. Let's listen in to this ground report that was sent by my colleague Saloni Murarka there.
Protesters are surrounding the parliament area. They burned the tires. They burned the tires here right in front of the parliament building. And now stone pelting has just begun from both the sides. Police officials are guarding the premises of the parliament. They demand the resignation of the Prime Minister Oli's government, and they say that the rising corruption and widening inequality has tortured the civilians of the country, and that's why all the people and the young people, they leave the nation. As you can see, the stone pelting has begun. both sides. Protesters have surrounded the parliament area. These kind of protests are taking place across the Kathmandu in different parts of the city, and also in front of the Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's party office, CPN UML, as I'm hearing from the ground. And this is happening right in front of the parliament building of the Nepal. This is the Federal Parliament of Nepal, and this is the protest happening here. It has been escalated since morning now, and additional authorities are being deployed around the premises.
Moment in Nepal where there are some pretty dramatic protests that have unfolded, where many of these youngsters are out on the streets and they're demanding for nothing less than the resignation of their Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. And this is what is happening at this moment, where the protesters, according to reports that have come in, have also set fire to the private residence of KP Sharma Oli, the Prime Minister of Nepal, who's under immense pressure at this moment to resign because many of his cabinet ministers have stepped down. The Home Minister of Nepal has stepped down, citing moral responsibility for what has gone wrong. And it now remains to be seen as to what, of course, is going to be the fate of these protests. Because according to reports that are coming in, the police in Kathmandu have not resorted to the use of force in order to put down the protests, is what is in fact being reported. And we'll be getting my colleague Saloni Murarka in just a bit from now, because these are some very dramatic and very fast-paced developments that are unfolding at this moment in Kathmandu. So Nepal is on the boil. Some pretty dramatic scenes are unfolding. We do not know as to where the Prime Minister of Nepal, KP Sharma Oli, is. His residence, private residence, has been set on fire. The residence of the Nepalese president has also been set on fire by the protesters. This is what is being reported. Remember, 19 people died in clashes with the law enforcement authorities on Monday, that is yesterday, after tens of thousands of these youngsters took to the streets to protest against the ban on social media that was lifted on Monday. However, the outpouring of public anger has shown that the people's dissatisfaction goes way beyond the ban on the social media sites. They're raising slogans against corruption with the government and also the undue advantage the children of those in power that get labelled as Nepo kids and Nepo babies. And the phrase Nepo has, of course, become a catchword for many of these youngsters who are out on the streets. The protesters are carrying placards with the slogans including "Shut down corruption" and "Unban social media, youth against corruption," as they are marching through Kathmandu, while hashtags that are now trending in Nepal include stuff such as Nepo kid, hashtag Nepo babies. And this is what is doing the rounds in social media in Nepal. And my colleague Saloni Murarka will be joining us in just a bit from now. Remember, these are some very dramatic scenes that are unfolding with respect to what has been unfolding in Nepal. My colleague Siddhant Sibil is joining us over the phone line. Siddhant, you know, this is something that has escalated very dramatically. Tell us as to how the Indian government has reacted so far.
Well, earlier today we saw the Indian government reacting sharply, and the Indian government in its reaction basically called for restraint and basically said that when it comes to the Indian nationals, they are advised to follow the rules and regulations. So basically India said that as a friend and a neighbor, a close friend, India hopes that all concerned will exercise restraint and address any issue through peaceful means and dialogue. And of course, we know that there are many Indians living in Nepal, and Nepal, of course, instability there is a concerning issue for India. India, of course, extending its condolences over the deceased, the 19 dead in the protest on Monday. Of course, India's focus will be that there is an early return of stability in the country, and we also know that in fact, the Nepali Prime Minister was expected to travel to India later this month, but I do not expect that's going to happen now. In fact, Nepal Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli with India for a long time, but that was not happening. He, of course, has taken an anti-India stance on many issues, but his growing closeness is also a growing closeness with China is also something that has been taken note in New Delhi. In fact, he was in China just a few days ago for that Victory Day parade in Beijing. But coming to the Nepal protest, we have seen the visuals. In fact, the protesters are now storming the politicians' houses. They've been burnt, including the house of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. So there is a lot of angst on the ground. This is a Generation Z protest, and as you can understand from the name, the protests are led by young people, primarily because of the banning of the social media. Now, why is this a big issue is also something that we need to understand, because there are many Nepalese who are living outside the country today. There's a huge Nepalese diaspora. Now, for them, social media is one way through which they contact their near and dear ones, and with the ban that was imposed by the government, that of course galvanized the youth, and of course launched a major protest in the country, and of course the protests escalated very fast. Now, there is an eerie resemblance to what happened in Bangladesh last year, and that happened in the region in past few years, including of course in Sri Lanka, including in Pakistan as well. Of course, we have seen a situation that's basically political situation in Myanmar after the coup. But all in all, we know that this is a developing story. This is a situation that is being closely monitored in the region and outside as well. We saw a joint statement by Western countries like US, UK, Australia, and countries in Asia as well. The joint statement called for a restraint as well. So, developing situation. There are reports of the situation at the airport as well, but this is still yet to be confirmed. So we of course will be focusing on what has happened and the facts on the ground. But concerning situation indeed for India over what's happening in Nepal right now, and this is something that is of course closely monitored.
Absolutely, indeed, Siddhant. At this moment, is there an advisory that's been issued for Indian nationals who are at this moment in Nepal?
Well, of course, that is what India earlier in the day said, that Indian nationals in Nepal are advised to exercise caution and adhere to steps and guidelines issued by the Nepalese authorities. One thing I know, that there are now reports of several flights being cancelled from Delhi to Kathmandu and other places as well. That's primarily because of the developing situation at the Kathmandu International Airport. We know that authorities are not taking any chances. There are a lot of rumor as well that's going around, which is expected as well. Similar situation we have seen in Bangladesh and other countries in the region. So essentially, I would say there is a sense of deja vu as well. The country, of course, is different, but the protests are similar in line. The Bangladesh protests were also led by the youth, and we saw the death of many citizens there.
Right. Absolutely, indeed. Do continue to stay with us. Siddhant, my colleague Saloni Murarka is joining us over the phone line. Saloni, what is the update as to what is unfolding at this moment in Kathmandu, where you are?
Yeah, I'm standing right outside the airport at the moment, where the heavy deployment of army officials can be seen. And there's a high alert at the airport. International airport has been shut down for a while due to security concerns. And it is believed that many of the leaders are trying to flee the country. And as just now, I've received information that army officials are trying to evacuate the family members of the party leaders from Nepal.
Right.
Yes.
Right, Saloni, in the background we can hear a lot of sloganeering that is taking place where you are at the airport. Give us a sense of what is unfolding at the airport. How many people have surrounded the airport? What is the expectation there?
They have set fire to tires along the entire road of the road that leads to airport. There are multiple tires and some clothes, some chairs have set on fire near the airport, just along the airport road. And these protesters are in conversation at the moment with the police officials, saying that how can let a country leader flee the country, you know, and you officials have to help us out to help the nation. And so that they're trying to convince the police officials to let them enter the airport premises.
Right. So they are saying that the leaders should not be allowed to enter into the airport premises so that they can flee from the country. Is that what
Right.
the protesters are now telling the police at the airport?
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And also, Saloni, just to talk a little bit about what is trending at this moment in social media in Nepal, besides corruption, besides revoking the ban on the social media sites, nepotism, Nepo babies is one of the hashtags that seems to be trending a lot. What is the issue of nepotism that the protesters are so unhappy about within Nepalese politics?
This Nepo kids, Nepo babies was the first discussion that began on TikTok just a few weeks back, when they saw the prime ministers or former prime ministers' sons and daughters having vacations in the foreign countries, going around the world. And even though some, and they were not set accountable for their own mistakes, even if they were here in the country. So they saw the biasness around it, and how if the children of the prime ministers and former prime ministers are able to live such a lavish life, then why not us? The lavish lifestyle started to started to spread around the public here, the rage among them. That's what they say. They say that these people, these Nepo kids, have taken all our money, all our taxes money, and we have to go outside of the country to work and to earn some money for our family back in home.
Right, so that seems to have contributed to the unrest and the anger of the protesters that has been so visible on the streets in Nepal at this moment. Saloni Murarka, do continue to stay on with us. Meanwhile, I'm told that we have Mr. Surendra Puyal, who's a senior journalist who's joining us from Kathmandu. Mr. Puyal, thank you very much for joining us here on WION. Can you tell us as to what is unfolding at this moment with respect to the Prime Minister, whose private residence, we're given to understand, has been set on fire? Where is the Prime Minister of Nepal?
The Prime Minister must be in his official residence in the heart of Kathmandu, I imagine. It's completely chaotic, the situation, and it looks like the city is burning. Lots of places on fire, lots of buildings of several ministers, former ministers, former prime ministers are on fire, and the situation is completely out of control. The PM has called an all-party meeting at 6 p.m. in the evening, but looks like it's too late, and things are going from bad to worse.
Right, now many members of the Prime Minister's coalition, including many members of his cabinet, have resigned, citing moral responsibility. Does KP Sharma Oli even enjoy the support of his own party members to continue as the Prime Minister at this moment?
That's a good question. People have not come out openly against him, but we understand there is there's brewing discontent within his party. That's there, but then the government is now isolated with the major coalition partner, Nepali Congress, leaving most of its ministers leaving the cabinet, tendering their resignation. And amidst the chaos, army helicopter has been circling around Kathmandu, taking ministers from their private residences to a safe location. Even the official quarters of the ministers in southern Kathmandu has been set alight by protesters. So things are not looking good right now.
Right now, yesterday when the protests played out in the streets, it was an extremely violent clashes that happened. 19 people ended up losing their lives. But since this morning, there are reports which say that the police has been going easy on the protesters and has not resorted to the use of force. Anything that you can confirm about that front, sir?
Not really. Looking at the numbers, police tried their level best to take the situation under control. But then again, there was violence. The protests were not peaceful. So there were 19 people who were killed. And today also the firing is continuing at several places. So the situation is, moving at a very fast forward pace. Things are not looking good. Looks like it is another bad day in Nepal. There's complete anarchy.
Right, there is complete anarchy is how you're describing this. Now, the straw that broke the camel's back was in fact this ban on many of these social media networks within Nepal because they were not complying in the timeline that the government had put them to register themselves with the authority in Nepal. Why do you think KP Sharma Oli was trying to get these social media sites to register? What was he unhappy about with the content that was circulating on these social media sites?
Yeah, that's like, from where we are now, that's like going back. Actually, the Nepalese government repeatedly asks the social media tech companies to, get themselves registered, appoint their grievance officers in Nepal, but then nobody, paid heed. It fell on deaf ears, and the government was forced to do so. That's what it was said. But then it has been lifted now, and all social media channels are like back up and running. And then people are just, busy uploading the disturbing images that are being recreated today. And things, as I see now, are just, getting from bad to worse.
Right, things are getting bad to worse. Yeah, go ahead, make your point.
Yeah, quite traumatizing scenes. It's like quite disturbing. Several, public property, buildings are being destroyed. An entire neighborhood looks like is on fire right outside the parliament, things are just absolutely horrible. I mean, it's difficult to describe. It's absolutely unprecedented.
It's unprecedented. Now, it is the Gen Z, it is the younger generation that is at the forefront of these protests. How do you view these protests, Mr. Puel? Is this something which is very organically that is erupted, or are there other political factors who are trying to back these protesters that are at play here?
Nothing is confirmed, but the government spokesperson yesterday pointed out that there is some infiltration from different vested interest groups. Just 6 months ago, we remember there was a big protest in favor of monarchy. So probably more pro-monarchy forces are at play. The opposition parties not happy with Oli. There's former Maoist party. I don't know. It's really difficult to corroborate and investigate and find out. But yeah, everyone who is unhappy is like out on the street doing their things.
And also, KP Sharma Oli is an old, seasoned politician, and he's been in power for quite some time, in and out of power for quite some time in Nepal. Do you think he did not see the anger that was brewing within the people of Nepal? How do you think a protest of this magnitude has suddenly exploded onto the streets of Nepal?
I think it's partly to blame with the short-sightedness, lack of intelligence, maybe a bit of foolhardiness. It's really difficult to say, but then the damage has been done and there's no point going back. I mean, I think the focus now it should be on how to fix things, set the record straight, how to fix things up and get Nepal back on track.
All right. Mr. Puel, thank you very much indeed for joining us from Kathmandu and getting us all those insights there. Things are very fluid and dynamic and changing every minute. This is what the scene looks like at this moment in Nepal, where the private residence of KP Sharma Oli, the Prime Minister of Nepal, has been set on fire. The residence of the President of Nepal has also been set on fire, is what is being reported. There are many protesters who have set fire to many of these ties. They have apparently blocked the road to the airport where my colleague Saloni Murarka at this moment is. And the expectation is that some of these political leaders in Nepal may try and flee from the country. To prevent that from happening, the protesters, we're given to understand, have completely surrounded the airport premises. They don't want their political leaders to just flee and not be held accountable for what the public seems to be extremely angry with. My colleague Saloni Murarka has sent us this report from the airport in Nepal. Take a look as to what's unfolding there.
The situation has escalated in the capital, Kathmandu. Protesters have gathered around the Parliament building. This is the main gate that you see behind me, is the main gate of the Federal Parliament of Nepal. The protesters and the police clashed. The police fired tear gases. The other side hurled the stones on the police officials. Now they have just gathered around in front of the main Parliament gate. These young people want change in the Nepal's government system. They want the Nepal Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's government to step down and want a directly elected Prime Minister. this is for the change that they want here in the nation, with the rising corruption, widening inequality, and just with this frustration, all the youngsters have come down on the streets of Kathmandu. The entire country has been witnessing these protests. Crowd has been increasing minute by minute. Protesters are gathering around the parliament. As you can see, police officials, APF, Nepal army have been deployed, and not only outside the premises but inside as well. Many of the protesters have attacked the leaders' houses and party office buildings here in Kathmandu. I'm reporting from Kathmandu, Nepal. I'm Saloni Murarka for WION.
And also, Mr. Jagdishore Pandey, who is an editor of The Diplomat in Nepal, has reacted about the ongoing situation in the country. Listen to what he has said, what he has to say.
In Nepal's democratic history, yesterday, Nepal received a massacre from its own government. The KP Sharma Oli-led government killed its 19 people who are young and from the Gen Z generation. And the Gen Z generation, they came to road because the government, because of the government corruption, as well as the government banned 26 social media which people are using day by day. So against the outrage of the social media closing, as well as the corruption and the corrupt political leadership for 30 years, the Nepali Gen Z generation came over to protest that. But the government led by KP Sharma Oli massacred 19 innocent people. After that, the coalition partner from the Congress, there was a Home Minister Ramesh Lekhov. He resigned, as well as the other minister from Congress are also planning to resign, and they are also considering to pull out their support from the Oli government. But the Oli, who is leading this government, who killed 19 innocent people, and there are more than 400 people are injured around the country. And the
All right, so this is what is unfolding at this moment in Kathmandu, where many of these youngsters, they've been out on the streets. They're demanding for nothing less than the stepping down of KP Sharma Oli, where the Prime Minister's private residence has been set on fire by the protesters. The protesters are extremely unhappy with what is unfolding in the country. Remember, the protests, of course, started off. The spark was the ban that was imposed on the social media sites because they were not willing to adhere to the regulation of the Nepalese government. But there are many other factors that are at play here: deep-seated corruption and the state of the economy, and nepotism of the children of the politicians, who seem to be enjoying some kind of a lifestyle which the general people in Nepal felt very angry with. Because one of the hashtags that has been trending in Nepal over the course of the last few days is Nepo Kids, and that has been very, very prominently talked about by the people who are out on the streets. And although the KP Sharma Oli government has now revoked the ban on the social media sites, the protesters say that they are just not happy and they want nothing less than the resignation of KP Sharma Oli. Because remember, it's interesting to know whether KP Sharma Oli is even, does he even enjoy some of the support, the popular support of members of his own political party in the parliament. The protesters have gathered at the airport. They are speaking with the security personnel at the airport because they say that the political leaders must not be allowed to flee from the country. Now, the Prime Minister, that is KP Sharma Oli, has called for an all-party meeting at about 6 p.m. Nepalese time later in the day today. But it remains to be seen as to how many of the political leaders even turn up for that meeting, because many of the cabinet ministers of KP Sharma Oli's government have stepped down, including the Home Minister, who has cited moral responsibility for what has unfolded in Nepal. And he has said that he cannot continue any further in the aftermath of what has happened there. The official quarters in southern Kathmandu has also been set on fire. These are some of the developments that are unfolding in Kathmandu. And since this morning, these are reports where the police has been apparently going easy on the protesters, and like what happened yesterday, where 19 of the protesters were killed in clashes with the police. The residence of President Ramchandra Paul of Nepal has also been set on fire. This is what is being reported this moment. The residences of the former Nepalese prime ministers, including that of the Pushpa Kamal Dahal Prachanda and Sher Bahadur Dioba, and the energy minister Deepak Khadka, have also been damaged by the protesters. So it is not one party or the other which seems to be backing these protesters, at least not on the face of it, because the former presidents, including KP Sharma Oli's long-time rival Pushpa Kamal Dahal Prachanda and Sher Bahadur Dioba, and also the energy minister Deepak Khadka, their residences have also been damaged by the protesters. We'll slip into a short break, but don't go anywhere, for on the other side we'll continue tracking the developments that are unfolding in Nepal, where there are some pretty dramatic scenes. The protesters have now taken over the streets, and no one knows at this moment as to where the Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli is, whose residence has been set on fire. We'll slip into a short break. More updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned to WION.
यत्रो निर्णय गर्दाखेरि हिजोको दिनमा पुलिसले आफ्नो बन्दुक भैया रोडमा राखेर उनीले बोइकट गरे भने आज यो सारा सरकार
मेरा नाम विकास सापकोटा।
आप प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे थे सुबह?
हम भी प्रोटेस्ट पे थे, सवेरे 9 बजे से थे। सवेरे
क्या रीजन है क्यों लोग सड़कों पे उतरे हुए हैं, क्यों प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं?
सबसे बड़ा रीजन तो ये है कि करप्शन टॉप लेवल पे पहुंच गया है हमारे कंट्री पे। करप्शन का लेवल इतना हाई हो गया है कि जनता का सहन शक्ति से भी ऊपर चला गया है। रीजन, मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट रीजन यही था।
आप हॉस्पिटल में क्यों आए?
हम हॉस्पिटल में, मेरा यहाँ कोई भी रिलेटिव्स भी नहीं है, कोई फ्रेंड्स भी नहीं है। यहाँ बहुत सारे ऐसे पेशेंट्स हैं जिनका वो रिलेटिव्स भी नहीं है, कोई चीन जान का आदमी भी नहीं है। ह्यूमैनिटी के आधार से हम यहाँ दिन के 3 बजे से सेवा में लगे हुए हैं।
क्यों हॉस्पिटल में कितने पेशेंट एडमिट हैं, क्यों एडमिट हुए?
लिस्ट के आधार से यहाँ पे अभी 138 पेशेंट्स हैं, उनमें से लगभग 4 लोग डेड हो गए हैं। ऑलमोस्ट टोटल मिला के मोर देन 500 लोग।
कौन है ये पेशेंट्स?
प्रोटेस्ट करने वाले।
अच्छा, आप प्रोटेस्ट साइट पे थे, क्या हुआ आप बताएंगे?
हम सवेरे 10-11 बजे से स्टार्ट हुआ माइती घर मंडला में। हम वहीं पे थे हिमायती घर मंडला में। वहाँ से आगे बढ़ते हुए सब शांतिपूर्ण हिसाब से चल रहा था। वहाँ से हम आए पार्लियामेंट, आपको पता होगा पार्लियामेंट के सामने आए। वहाँ बाहर से कुछ लोग आए, हम जेनरेशन जेड की तरफ से स्टार्ट हुआ था सबसे पहले। वहाँ से बाहर से कुछ लोग आके वो पत्थर उथर फेंकने लगे। वहीं से जेनजी लोग भी गर्म हो गए, वही उनके ही पीछे पीछे चल के पत्थर उथर थोड़ा सा कर दिए। वहीं से फायरिंग शुरू हो गया। तो सब फायरिंग के बाद ये लेवल हाई में चला गया।
अभी क्या लग रहा है कहाँ जा रहा है
ये प्रोटेस्ट? अभी तो बहुत हाई, बहुत लोगों को ये लग रहा है इश्यू, बहुत लोग ऐसे सोच रहे हैं कि सोशल मीडिया नेपाल में बंद हो गया, इसीलिए जेनरेशन जेड व पूरी जनता मतलब आवेश हो गए हैं, ऐसा मानना है लोगों का। लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है। हम लोगों का ये जो अभी प्रोटेस्ट चल रहा था ये करप्शन के लिए है। अब हमारा प्रोटेस्ट बहुत हाई लेवल तक जाएगा। आज तो बहुत बस स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट में हम शो ऑफ के लिए निकले थे, ये कल से हाई लेवल पे जाएगा।
आपका नाम?
मेरा नाम क्रिस दंगाल है।
क्या हुआ था, आप प्रोटेस्ट में थे, क्या कुछ हुआ?
नहीं, मैं प्रोटेस्ट पे नहीं था, मैं कॉलेज पे था। बट मैंने न्यूज़ पे देखा प्रोटेस्ट में बहुत सारे लोग को गोली लगी थी और घायल हुए थे, इसीलिए ब्लड डोनेट करने के लिए मैं इधर आया था।
अच्छा, अभी आप हॉस्पिटल में हैं, क्या सिचुएशन है हॉस्पिटल में? आप अंदर से हो क्या है?
हाँ, बहुत लोग इंजर्ड है और 4 लोग की डेथ भी हो गई है।
नहीं, अभी 15 लोग ज़्यादा बढ़ गया है।
हाँ, इस हॉस्पिटल में 4 लोग।
आप क्या करते हैं?
मैं स्टूडेंट हूँ।
कॉलेज में हैं आप?
हाँ।
अच्छा, ये प्रोटेस्ट क्यों हो रहा है?
ये प्रोटेस्ट अगेंस्ट द करप्शन।
ये जो न्यूज़ चल रहा है कि सोशल मीडिया
नहीं,
इसलिए लोग सब होते हैं।
नहीं, VPN भी जाके चला सकते हैं। क्या VPN क्या डेथ, क्या मानिस के डेथ के लाइफ के से भी इम्पोर्टेंट है सोशल मीडिया। नहीं, हम तो यहाँ करप्शन के अगेंस्ट बोलने आए।
आपका नाम क्या है?
मेरा नाम युवराज सिंह भारद्वाज।
क्या करते हैं?
मैं पेशा से सिनेमाटोग्राफर हूँ, मुंबई में रहता हूँ। तो अभी इसी प्रोग्राम के लिए यहाँ पे हूँ, इसके साथ के लिए।
क्या हो रहा है? ये प्रोग्राम क्यों हो रहा है?
ये करप्शन के अगेंस्ट के लिए हो रहा है। तो ये जो करप्शन हो रहा है बहुत ज़्यादा ये कंट्रीज़ में, तो इसी के खिलाफ हैं हम। तो एक बड़ा वाला जो नेता बोलते हैं हम, उनका लाइफस्टाइल और हमारा लाइफस्टाइल देखो तो आसमान ज़मीन का फ़र्क है दोनों में। तो हम चाहते हैं कि ये सब नहीं होना चाहिए, ये इक्वल होना चाहिए। हमारे जेब से पैसा जा रहा है, हम टैक्स पे कर रहे हैं और वो लोग मौज मस्ती कर रहे हैं, ये सब कर रहे हैं, है ना। तो हमारा पैसा सही जगह पे जहाँ पे लगना चाहिए वो सब नहीं हो रहा है। तो वही हमारा डिमांड है, तो उसी के लिए हम ये सब कर रहे हैं।
कल क्या कुछ रहने वाला है? क्या आपका तैयारी रहेगा?
अब आगे का तैयारी, आज का जो तैयारी था वो इतना बड़ा भी ये सब सोच के नहीं था, ये सब आउट ऑफ कंट्रोल हो गया। तो कल का भी अब हम तो चाह रहे थे कि हम नॉर्मल से करें, है ना। तो लेकिन शांति से बात नहीं बनी तो थोड़ा सा आगे जाना पड़ गया, है ना। तो कल का भी कोई सिचुएशन कुछ बता नहीं सकते अभी के लिए। अभी तो हम क्या है कि हमारा जो यहाँ पे दोस्त लोग हैं, ये जो घायते हो गए अस्पताल में एडमिट हुए हैं, इन्हीं के लिए अब दवाई पानी उपचार, है ना, ये सब देख रहे हैं हम। देखिए अब आज का रात का 12 भी बज गया है, 12 बजे तक हम लग रहे हैं। अब कल का भी देखते हैं क्या होता है। अब कल का ब्लड डोनेशन का भी यहाँ पे प्रोग्राम चल रहा है, हम लोग करवा रहे हैं। अब देखते हैं
कौन करप्शन कर रहा है जिसके लिए आपको सड़कों पर उतरना पड़ रहा है?
ये जो मेन जो लीडर हैं वो यहाँ का प्राइम मिनिस्टर और इनको सपोर्ट करने वाले जो पार्टीज हैं और उनके जो अंडर में जो लोग हैं, वो नज़दीक वाले जो इनका बेटे जैसा लगते हैं, तो वो लोग हैं, है ना। आप अगर नाम लेना चाहते हो तो नाम ले सकता हूँ मैं, बट आपकी मर्जी। तो इसमें तो सबसे बड़ा नंबर 1 पे आता है कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर ही आता है ना। कि दुनिया में अगर कोई सबसे घटिया कोई प्राइम मिनिस्टर का नाम आता है तो हमारा देश का ही नाम आता है। ये हमारे लिए बहुत हमको डाउनफॉल करवाता है ये चीज़, है ना। तो ये केपीओली जो है, लोग स्कूल में पढ़ने वाले छोटे छोटे बच्चे लोग आ रहे हैं वहाँ पे आगे बैठ के सिर्फ उनका डिमांड यही है कि भ्रष्टाचार मत करो, है ना। बस इसके लिए गोली चला दे रहे हैं, उनको लिए मार दे रहे हैं उनको। चलो ठीक है कि ये घुटनों के नीचे मारो तब तक ठीक है, लोगों को यहाँ पे मार रहे हैं, यहाँ पे मार रहे हैं, यहाँ पे मार रहे हैं, है ना। ये कैसा सिस्टम है ना, ये कैसा दमनकारी सिस्टम है। तो ये है प्रचंड है, तो शेरबहादुर देउवा जी है, और इनके जो आजू बाजू लेने वाले हैं वही लोग हैं।
कल से
कैसा परिस्थिति है आज?
पर बहुत डेंजर है, गाड़ी नहीं चल रहा है। अभी काठमांडू का नाइट में हम लोग आए हैं, सिलीगुड़ी डॉक्टर के पास जा रहे हैं। अभी कल कैसे जाएंगे वो मुश्किल है आज।
इधर क्या गाड़ी घोड़ा बंद है?
पूरा बंद है, पूरा
दुकान भी बंद,
सब चीज़ बंद है।
डर के माहौल से इधर आए?
नहीं, हम लोग का चेकअप कराना है, सिलीगुड़ी जा रहा हूँ, हम हॉस्पिटल जा रहा हूँ।
क्या नाम है?
मेरा कुमार भित्री गटी है। बहुत मुश्किल है अभी।
विराटनगर से आया।
कैसे है परिस्थिति अभी माहौल नेपाल में?
अभी तो ठीक है, कहीं
बस चल रहे?
कहीं बस में आया, अभी चाहिँ क्या रोक गया है।
सब गाड़ी रोक दिया है अभी?
हाँ, रोक गया है।
रास्ता में कोई जुलूस वगैरह निकला गया है?
हाँ, जीरो से है।
जुलूस है?
हाँ,
क्या नाम है जी आपका?
पीताम्बर कमला है।
नेपाल का रहने वाले?
हाँ।
कहाँ का रहने वाले?
हाँ?
कहाँ का रहने वाले आप?
हाँ, विराटनगर।
नेपाल?
हाँ, नेपाल विराटनगर।
One second.
हाम्रो छोरी फिर्ताले हाम्रो छोरी फिर्ताले
हेलो
यतिकै फालेछ भने तपाईँको
चाह्यो भने तिनीहरूलाई अहिले हाल्नु सक्छ क्या
लाइट सेयर हान्दैन लाइट सेयर हान्नु